Hey everybody, jumping on the Facebook Live here. This is something I don't do commonly, but I wanted to make sure I have opportunity to connect with anybody who's out here, anybody who has questions, anybody who's really in the natural health community looking right now to take care of themselves or their family. And what I wanted to start off with is a couple thoughts, and then hopefully if anybody has time to jump on here, please put some comments, questions, and things over in the box. My main reason to get on here right now is I want to help in any way that I can to understand what challenges people are having, what questions they're having, and while I certainly can't solve everything and I don't know everything, I want to see what we can do to be able to just help people locally here in our community. So I'm going to start with a couple thoughts. First off is what we're doing as a business and how I'm thinking about this. So as a business, we're not closing. Like unless the guys with the badge and the black suits come in and say somehow that the government doesn't allow us to be open, we're not closing. We're here for you. We're here for ourselves. We're here for anybody that needs help. Now is not the time for us to be all frightened and close down when people need things the most. So we need to have our systems strong right now. We need to have somebody to talk to that has options for, an empowering message for you and your family other than, fear everything and stay at home and wear a mask and be afraid. That's really the message you're getting all day. That's not the message here. As I say, it's always warm and sunny in the Chiropractic Health Center. You will be treated not as a bag of germs and a sick person when you're here. If you want to come in, business as usual here, and we'll take care of you and help yourselves and your families. That being said, of course, we're doing everything we can to make sure that our environment is clean, sanitary, diffusers go, and all these kind of things there to make sure the environment here is very comfortable, very safe for anybody and their families. But we are going to have open office hours just as normal, and you can come in anytime we're open. The only thing you need to know is the hours that we are open, and those are on our website, those are on our Facebook. You can call, you can message. So the only thing you really need to know is what hours we're open, and you're welcome to come in as usual. Certainly if you have any questions, any concerns, any family member maybe that you have a concern about, you're welcome to call us and figure that situation out before you choose to come in. And as far as some patients who feel that they may have some immune compromise or family members that are immune compromised, my message on that is that, without getting really sciencey on this, is that chiropractic has a very positive improvement on the immune system. So whoever it is that is immune compromised, I would want to get adjusted if I was in that situation, and I would want to be able to adjust that person as well. So if you feel that you can have a low risk situation to get somebody here, or that you're in that situation, if you can get here, come in. It's only going to help you and your immune system. All right. Something else that I wanted to I just kind of state here is, anytime you're dealing with people that are sick or where there's a problem, and this is both in health and this is both socially as well, there becomes this fear of the problem. There becomes this fear of infection, either physically in the germ sense, that you fear the germ, or socially in that if you get close to the people that are having the problem, somehow like you're that's going to rub off on you. And so the easiest thing to do is to distance yourself from the problem, because there's a feeling of safeness or security, right? I'm not going to go around those people that have that problem. Maybe I don't understand quite why they have it. I'm kind of afraid of that, and so I'm just going to stay away from that. And so we see that kind of thing frequently socially as well. How do you get into a community and solve problems? whether it's poverty, whether it's illness, whether it's violence, whether it's ignorance, whether it's bigotry, whatever it is. How do you actually get into a social problem and solve it? And ultimately, it seems like the answer is somebody has to get close to the problem so that they can understand it, and so there can be communication to the extent that there are any forces or things that can help to solve the problem. There needs to be an understanding and a communication about what's happening and what resources there are amidst the greater community to be able to solve that problem. But it'll never happen if people are so afraid of the problem that they can't get close to it. All right. So how do I translate that into a virus or this kind of pandemic and these kind of things? I would look at as an example of somebody like Mother Teresa, who is around people with leprosy, right? They're serving the people at the bottom of the chain. They're ill, disfigured, sick. Everybody ostracizes. They're afraid of. They don't want to get what they have and all that kind of thing. And so it really takes somebody who has some combination of knowledge and understanding of the situation, that I can go into that situation and not be harmed, and they're willing to walk into the fire to try to serve or to pull people out of the fire. And it may take some faith too. It may take a person who has a certain faith to say, I don't know if I understand it. I don't know if I know why. I don't know if I know the cause, but I'm not going to go and be afraid of going into that situation and just let the people stay there and suffer. Like, my job is to go to love people. My job is to have faith. And the whole thing with fear and faith, there's two very, very different things. So not that I'm necessarily see myself fit to preach to you, but I want to give you a perspective on health and how these things tie in. So the mental state of fear is very depleting to the body. It's very weakening to the body. It's going to deplete the immunity. So what we would call fear, an emotion, a state of being, is going to translate literally into a neurohormonal, like a biological signal. And that's going to produce certain hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, these kind of things, that it is beyond any shadow of a doubt. We understand those things are suppressive to the immunity. And the more time that those hormones are present, say 24/7, all day, every day for weeks, months, years in a row, like right now, the greater the time that's present, the more depleting it's going to be. So that state of fear is going to be one of the things that is most depleting, is most risky to, is there in a state of fear. So the state of faith would be very different. You would have a different biochemical pathway, neurohormonal pathway, that would not be depleting to the body. It may be constructive, anabolic or building up or resistant. So understand that there are kind of like always two sides to the equation or perspective. And in health, the dominant theory that has won out in history is this idea of germ theory, right? And in my opinion, it's a childish. I'm not to say that there aren't, that germs aren't real, but just roll with me here. So germ theory is somewhat of a childish, almost the superstition to say, I don't understand things, and there's something bad that happens. And for something bad to happen, there has to be a bad thing that caused it. And so the germ is the bad thing. We're basically the victim or the innocent thing, and then it causes the bad stuff to us. So we're afraid of the germ. And that whole theory is really won out. So we look at disease as molecules and germs and whatnot, and we try to treat those, viewing it as an external responsibility, not an internal responsibility. It's not a problem with me. It's an external thing. It's a problem out there that I don't really have control of, but I'm a victim of. Versus something that is more of an internal thing, to say, yes, there are these external things. They're always there. But look more at the internal terrain, like what's my responsibility in that? What can I change? What can I do? And am I able to resist? Am I able to be resistant to that thing? Because look at any plague in history, and ones that you don't have to be an epidemiologist. The fact that we're all still here, even the Black Plague hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, whenever that stuff happens, like not everybody who was in that same environment necessarily got the same illness. So there is the germ, there is the environment, but then there are other factors that tie into individual people and that kind of resistance of the host. So this differentiation between the germ theory and then the internal terrain. So what I want to help people do is really have a strong internal terrain. First, from the top down, the mental level, try to get a perspective that is not totally fear-based. All right, and then from the inside out, actually use this incredible thing of chiropractic to help decrease or inhibit or switch down the pathways of stress, anxiety, and fear on a literal, like a physical, material, biochemical level, actually to change that. Chiropractic is very powerful for that. And then we want to be able to say, okay, what can we do? How can we do external things? Plants, foods, what things can we use from the environment? What resources do we have to be able to increase our resistance, our resilience, kind of our own internal terrain to resist whatever we perceive as out there? And so I am certainly a fan of plants, plant-based medicine, herbs, things like that. So as opposed to just waiting for a vaccine to show up and fix us all or something like that, what can we use from our day-to-day life with our food, with plant-based medicines to just kind of build up our own immunity and for ourselves and for our families. So those are some points of thinking here. So if anybody's out there have a question, go ahead and send a question in. If you have a comment, anything like that that's actually constructive, send it in. If not, I'll have one more point here for a little commentary and just wrap up. So what I'm going to read here is a Bible verse. So Ephesians 6:10 through 18, and it's this passage on the armor of God. So some people may be very familiar with, but to me this is just a very anytime I think of health, there's always a physical kind of spiritual parallelism. It's always the case. And so whether you're reading this physically in a time of sickness and illness and fear of disease, or whether you're looking at this spiritually, it's, in my opinion, there's a similar message here. So I'll just read this and maybe have a little commentary. So it says, "Finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." So from a chiropractic standpoint is I'm being strong not in the power of the government, not in the power of Clorox wipes, not in the power of any of that, not in the power of the CDC. I'm taking strong in the Lord. And so the chiropractic perspective has always been that you are a miracle, right? I'm a miracle. We are created by a creator with an internal wisdom, self-healing, self-regulating capacity beyond any of our conscious comprehension. And that is what heals us. And I understand we're all going to die, and I understand stuff happens. I get that. But healing is really a birthright. It's something that comes from God and is put into us kind of at day one. And it is going to influence with external factors, but ultimately that is like a birthright. And so I encourage people to be strong and claim that and have your strength in that, as opposed to the vaccine or the CDC or social distancing or whatever it is, okay? So verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." So when I read that, like in my mind, my struggle is not against you and whether you're going to cough on me or be afraid of you or a virus. It's not against the flesh and blood and the virus and the chemicals. But is this is what's happening right now, are the rulers, the authorities, are there some forces in the world that are feeding us fear and either creating or using this environment as an opportunity to do something that is possibly not, not for our good. And I think there's always a battle between those things. I've come to the conclusion that I don't have any way myself experientially of knowing that. So going through this in my mind for years, I've kind of come down to the power of one thing. I don't know if the president's good or bad. I don't know if the CDC is good or bad. I don't know if they want to depopulate the earth or if they're trying to make sure that nobody dies, because I think there's both of those things are at play, and I don't accurately know who they are and what the outcome will be. All I can really do is say, like, what I can do, what my purpose is, what I feel that, who I can reach, and try to the best of my ability kind of fulfill that purpose. That's all I can really do. And so right now, as a doctor, as a chiropractor, as a parent, as a person in the community, what I can do is if you come here, I can try to help you, right? I can try to connect with you. I can try to give you information. I can try to, help your family. I can try to do whatever that I can. And why all this is happening, what the outcome will be, I don't really know that, but I'm not afraid of the germ. I'm not afraid of the flesh and blood. I'm not afraid of somebody coming in here and getting me sick. I'm not, right? I feel like our struggle is against like what the powers that be are using this situation for, right? Verse 13. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. So here we have an imagery, right, of the human body being protected, being surrounded, being armored with truth. So don't let the media feed you their agenda. They're paying to feed you whatever, and frankly you don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's true. So try to find your truth from a source that is not just paying to feed you an agenda 24 hours a day, right? Breastplate of righteousness. Are you trying to do what's right? Is what's right different now than it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago? And are you going to go into panic mode and get all into, I'm going to try to, take the toilet paper that I need so they can't have it? Is that the mentality, or is there some code of conduct or righteousness that we can live by regardless of what's happening right now? So, and that's going to protect your heart, right? Because if you start trying to go into fear mode and attack and take and get mine, is your heart protected with righteousness, or are you now kind of like sinking your level into maybe what the whole purpose of this thing was to get people in a very fear and panic state for whatever reason, right? And your feet are fitted with readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. So it uses the term peace, right? So are your feet grounded on the earth? Our feet are on the earth, right? They're in God's creation. And can you have some peace that you have ways to protect yourself, to move, to navigate the world in a time like this, and you can view it as a peace instead of a time of conflict and with other people. And the shield of faith, we already talked about that, right? So you can extinguish the arrows. So faith can shield you from a lot of things, and that faith that, yes, we'll get through this, faith that, yes, my body, my family's body, we have a capacity to resist this, and there's things that we can do, things that we can take action on to back that faith with congruent action in the context of our health, right? The helmet of salvation, sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. So look to take up those words of truth. Your sword is essentially knowledge and love that you can get. Don't get it from the media. Look to the Word of God for that. And the helmet of salvation, that may be a thing to say. Ultimately, your mind is the top level thing, and the body is slave to the mind. So control your mind, your perspective, your faith first off, and in a physical sense, that may be your salvation, and understand that your eternal future is beyond anything that's happening right now in this world. So be cognizant of that in this time of physical fear. And then the last verse here, verse 18, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. And with this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. And in closing here, I'm going to say something that I think I've only ever really said maybe to two people, both who are ministers, because frankly, I think this will sound kind of odd to a lot of people, but I think as certain ministers could understand where I was coming from that. Is very, very common in a church-based setting that we have health problems, and people pray, they pray about that, and they for themselves, for their family, and so they're wanting protection, they're wanting guidance, they're wanting all of that stuff, and I do too. As a chiropractor, my frame of reference is that I basically view putting my hands on somebody and giving a chiropractic adjustment, that is my equivalent to praying for you. And that might sound weird, but as opposed to me going, oh, pray so-and-so doesn't get sick. Pray so-and-so doctor is smart and gives them the right medicine. My prayer, my faith, again, is being strong in the Lord. It's not in my power. I'm not a healer. I can't fix you. None of that. Your body has that ability to heal. It's a birthright. It's from God. All I can do, my prayer is to try to make sure that there's no interference or obstruction to you physically, or to the extent that I can influence anybody mentally or spiritually, that there's no obstruction to your body healing. So as opposed to me going, yeah, I'll pray for you, I would rather say, why don't you lie down here and let me pray for you with these, all right? So that's kind of my perspective. So that's where my heart is. I don't have all the answers. I can't fix everything. But what I can do is I can do what we have to be able to work with the power that's already in the body to heal the body for yourselves and your family, and try to make sure that you're strong and resilient. And that's basically my prayer for you. All right. So anybody who is watching, thanks. If you have any follow-up questions, or if you felt like, hey, maybe next time if I knew he was going to be on there, I would have asked a question or something like that, we could do this again a different day, tomorrow a different day. But just let me know if there's any questions, any comments anybody has. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know how we can help. I feel like I have a pulse on some of this stuff, but especially folks that are already patients here and part of our community. Certainly, I want to be able to connect with you if you have anything you would find valuable for us to connect with you. Okay, so thanks for watching, and until next time.